on Now Breakfast.
You're welcome to Security Watch this morning on your Beyond News station, Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos. Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State has ordered an immediate investigation into the military bombing of Tudumbili village in Igabi local government area of the state. The governor says the Muslim faithful who were observing the Maulud celebration were mistakenly killed and many others injured following a military drone attack targeting terrorists and bandits. Search and rescue operations in the area are ongoing while top government officials were dispatched to the area to assess the situation, reach out to the families of the victims and advise the government on the immediate actions and measures to be taken. Meanwhile, the government has offered to pay the cost of medical treatment for those who suffered injuries.
Elsewhere on Security Watch, the federal government has resumed the Kainji prosecution project phase 4. The project is a trial of suspected Boko Haram members which first began in 2017. Speaking at the opening of the court session in Abuja, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, asserted that the resumption of the project is a demonstration of the government's commitment to the safety of lives and property of citizens. He added that the government has made tremendous efforts to ensure that the trials are conducted with due regard to the provisions of the Constitution in terms of openness as much as can be permitted and in providing the suspects with adequate opportunities to make their defense. And that's Security Watch this morning, but stay with us, there are more conversations on the way.
Good morning. This is your daily Security Watch on Now Breakfast.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
This is Now Breakfast.
From the north to the south, real people.
So like I said to you, it's some serious elements of the outgoing entity of my party who's tenure elapsed, who are pleading with me to endorse an illegal extension, and I refuse to be a part of any illegality.
Real stories every morning.
Most of the IDP, they stay in schools, and once they move in schools, when there is a disaster, the school in that area is automatically shut down.
This is Today in the News on Now Breakfast.
Today in the news, the Nigerian government is canvassing support for a non-military approach to the regional security challenges in the West African region. The suggestion was made in a presentation at the 2023 second ordinary session of the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja. Now, Linda Ikeazu, who presented on behalf of the Nigerian delegation, said that Nigeria would want to see the harmonization of the regional security agenda geared towards mutually linked security goals. This comes following a recent coup attempt in Sierra Leone. Joining us to discuss this morning is our analyst, Biodun Shoumi.
Our guest is Malik Samuel, a research consultant with the Institute of Security Studies, ISS. Good morning and welcome, Mr. Samuel.
Hi, good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Let's start off with your reaction to this suggestion that's been made by the Nigerian delegation at the ECOWAS Parliament.
I think it's a welcome development. Because the region, we look at West Africa particularly, has been grappling with a lot of security challenges, ranging from violent extremism to I would say unconstitutional change of government. So that recommendation or the position Nigeria is canvassing for makes a lot of sense, because insecurity is international. It's no longer a national issue. Whatever affects one country is likely to affect another country in the form of spillover, which is what we are seeing right now in the region. You take the case of Nigeria, for instance. You look at the issue of Boko Haram. It started in Nigeria, but before people knew what was happening, it has spilled over into 3 other countries. We're seeing banditry now also spilling over from Nigeria into Niger and also possibly into Benin Republic. So it is it's a welcome development. The position Nigeria is combating for.
Malik, do you believe that the other countries, particularly the Francophone countries, will support this move?
I believe so, because it's in everybody's interest for that for a regional, I would say a regional for a strengthening or a collaboration of security measures. That is I think they just have to do that, because if you look at the region, the problem is not only in Nigeria. Nigeria is a democracy for the past 24 years. So a lot of these countries are looking up to Nigeria, are looking at what is happening in Nigeria and thinking how they can benefit from that. And if Nigeria is going towards this direction, of harmonizing security measures to deal with the issue regionally, I think it makes sense, because they know that Nigeria will provide the leadership. So I absolutely believe they will support that move.
I mean, Mr. Samuel, I have to follow up on this. Our security challenges may be similar. Nigeria may be the, quote, big brother in the room, but there are questions on whether we can truly harmonize strategies. I think about foreign influence in some of these countries, especially Francophone countries, right? 1 or 2 still have France as a very important strategic military partner. A number of them, where military coups have happened, are looking to Russia. There's the China factor as well. You look a lot further to the end of the region, where Cape Verde is more of a Lusophone country. So looking at these dynamics, can we say that we really can harmonize our strategies towards the security challenge?
Yeah, I think it's possible. And, before now, I would say, some decades ago, 2-3 decades ago, a lot of these countries within the region, they looked up to Nigeria in terms of security provision and leadership. And if they are looking, if they right now are looking elsewhere, when you mentioned foreign influence and all that, I think that happened because of the lack of leadership. That lack of leadership from Nigeria. It's not for nothing that Nigeria is seen as the giant of Africa, or the big brother in Africa. So if Nigeria does not provide that leadership, obviously they will look elsewhere. But for Nigeria now coming or being willing to provide that leadership, irrespective of what is happening in the country, I think it's a good thing. And if you look at what Nigeria is trying to say, is to move away from over militarization of security issues, which is a problem, because we've seen recently, even with Nigeria's case, that military solution to security challenges is not the best, has always not provided a solution. Boko Haram is a clear example of it, that if you go the military way, you definitely will not have the kind of success that you expect. So moving from that to other issues, non-kinetic measures to deal with security is what should be looked at. And if Nigeria is willing to provide that leadership, sharing its experience of how it's been able to, for the past 24 years, not had a military coup, not had unconstitutional change of government. If Nigeria can share that experience, of course we have our own challenges, but the fact remains that despite these challenges, for the past 24 years we've had stable democracy. If Nigeria can share that lesson and be willing to guide these other countries across, so it's definitely it's a welcome development, and I think we have the capacity to do that, to provide that sort of leadership.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel, for your time. Our guest this morning, Mr. Malik Samuel, a research consultant with the Institute of Security Studies, speaking on Nigeria's proposal that ECOWAS look for a more harmonized solution, a more mutually linked, a more harmonized solution towards the achievement of regional security goals in West Africa.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
In another far-reaching policy directive, the central bank has declared that all bank accounts without a bank verification number, that's a BVN, or National Identification Number (NIN), will be frozen from April 2024. Existing accounts with BVN or NIN must be electronically revalidated by the 31st of January next year, while unfunded accounts or wallets have been immediately placed on a post-no debit or credit until the new process is satisfied. The CBN says this new process is to promote financial system stability and strengthen the Know Your Customer KYC procedures in financial institutions. Joining us this morning is Everest Emefiele, who is a former group business editor with Punch newspapers. Mr. Emefiele joins us on the line now. Good morning and welcome, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Let's start off with how you would describe this move by the CBN.
Okay. We have seen this coming. The BVN was introduced in Nigeria in 2014. I think that was 2014, and the national identity number was introduced by the 2007 National Identity Management Act, although it became more effective in 2014, 2015, various deadlines had been given, and in 2014 we were told that, or 2015 we were told that you are not going to be able to do banking services without a BVN. And so what we'll be asking is the time lag. Why this time lag? Why do we have to rush at every time that a policy needs to be implemented? In fact, we're not going to be able to open any Tier 1 account without a BVN from September 2015. So
if I may, Mr. Emefiele, are you saying you disagree with the timeline, the deadline that has been given by the bank?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that several deadlines have been given in the past. So have some people been banking without BVN? That's a valid question. That's a fundamental question. Is it that some exceptions have been made, and that some people have been able to be operating their accounts without valid BVN? The other thing is that, yes, they want everybody to be validated by January 31st, 2024. We have it's less than 2 months to that deadline for all Nigerians to be validated. Are we going to see the cramming of banking halls? Although I learned that some other channels are open for the validation. But you see, it would be better to prevent having every person to rushing to revalidate their BVN. So I think a good deadline for revalidation of the BVN is very necessary.
Mr. Emefiele, I would like to understand what you mean by revalidation, because it seems a bit difficult to understand. If we already have a BVN attached to a bank account, why do I need to revalidate it? And I'm asking this because I'm concerned if at the same time there's any risks for bank account holders who don't comply with this instruction.
Yeah, validation, perhaps because I don't work for the CBN, is for everybody to make sure that yes, you have been captured, you have a BVN. This is your details are still correct. I'm sure that's what they mean by the revalidation. So you are there, you are in the database, but ensure that your data are correct. That's all.
You know, Mr. Emefiele, a significant portion of this move depends on NIMC. That's the Identity Management Commission, right? Because the CBN said BVN or NIN. And it speaks to this federal government's approach towards a more centralized data system. How do you see this playing out, considering we're now using two forms of identity markers?
That's the problem. That's the problem. Some of us have advocated in the past that we should have a system approach to issues in Nigeria. There's no reason why we should be having double, triple identities. When this NIN came up, what we were told was that, in fact, if you were captured by the mobile operators, the mobile operators or the NCC, you are going to be able to get your NIN without any fresh registration, because there is only one body in Nigeria that is authorized to manage identity, and that is the NIMC, the National Identity Management Commission. So if you were doing anything that would require you getting the biometrics, you were supposed to hand over the data to NIMC that is supposed to manage the identity of Nigerians. So those that registered the SIM card were supposed to hand over to NIMC. All data were supposed to be warehoused by NIMC. So it should be the same thing with the BVN. There is no need for multiple registrations in Nigeria. You are even talking about BVN. It is not only BVN. It is, there is BVN, driver's license, yes, and passports, yes, and all those things. And those things are not necessary. If we have a central identity management organization, they should manage the identity of all Nigerians, and we don't require multiple identities. And because it is not, apart from CBN, there are other organizations that gather the biometrics of Nigerians, and they're not supposed to be managing them. They're supposed to hand over such identities to NIMC. And automatically you were supposed to, maybe if you get your SIM registration, if you register your SIM card, you should be able to they should be able to give you a NIN. That was the original promise. That was what we were told at the beginning when we were registering for SIM cards. But that doesn't seem to be happening. And another valid question we should be asking ourselves that when we do all these biometrics, to what effect? Do we get the benefit that we were promised? We've started the registration. How far has the BVN gone in reducing fraud? How far has the SIM card registration been able to reduce the security challenges in the country?
Well, Mr. Emefiele, I must say that you do raise salient questions. Unfortunately, these are not questions that we could probably explore on this particular conversation, but we want to appreciate you and your time this morning for the conversation so far. Mr. Everest Emefiele is former group business editor with Punch newspaper, speaking to us on the CBN's decision to freeze bank accounts that do not have BVNs or NINs linked to them by April 2024.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Our next conversation this morning is the Federal Inland Revenue Service has decided to waive all penalties and interest on outstanding tax liabilities until the 31st of December this year. The FIRS chairman Zaccheaus Adedeji says this decision was taken to alleviate the burden on taxpayers and businesses and to promote compliance on tax laws. The move by the government coincides with a call by a coalition of NGOs known as the Tax Justice and Governance Platforms groups. They are urging all tiers of government and relevant agencies across the country to adopt an equitable tax system for all classes of citizenry. To discuss tax reforms and equitable tax for all in the country, we're joined this morning by Seun Olaleye, a chartered accountant and tax consultant. Good morning, Mr. Olaleye. I would like to start by asking...
Hello. Morning.
Good morning.
All right.
So what are your thoughts on this waiver by the FIRS?
Okay. First and foremost, I would say it's not a new thing. For those of us in the tax profession, it's more like becoming a routine. Routine in the sense that year on, year off, all these kind of waivers do come in. In the recent past, there's something that was called VAID, that's Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, whereby you voluntarily declare and you go away with some waivers. No penalties, no interest, and here we are again. But my contention is this: can we tax poverty? No, we cannot tax poverty. It is only prosperity we can tax. So whether waiver or not, why are you giving people waivers? Want to encourage compliance, but on the part of the tax institutions themselves, Federal Inland Revenue Service, what are they doing to generate compliance, to ensure compliance? Enough of punitive measures. Are they doing enough advocacy? Let me give you an instance. For instance, if your business premises do pay rent, you are paying rent. The law says that, okay, you withhold 10% of the rent you are paying to pay your landlord 90%. And withhold the 10% and remit. Look, if you just try it as a business owner, your landlord will pursue you. But if you default, FIRS will come and they now say that they are owing you, they now charge interest on that 10%, you fail to remit, and penalty. You'll be penalized. But if you dare try comply, your landlord will pursue you. So on their own part, FIRS on their own part, are they doing enough advocacy to ensure compliance? Instead of all these, okay, we give you waivers, we not pay penalty, I would advise, because it is they do it yearly and yearly.
Mr. Olaleye, if I may,
hello?
Just using, for instance, the VAIDs that you mentioned, the scheme, are you saying that that the benefits don't outweigh the costs in some way? Because I understand the example you've given. However, when VAIDs was launched, we did see a number of people take advantage of the scheme. So are you saying that the pros do not outweigh the cons?
Yeah, so you are right, actually. But what I'm saying now is that it's like a vicious cycle. We keep going. For how long? We most likely by this time next year we will come again with this program that why the issue is why can't we treat the problem? Like, why are we having people defaulting? Why are most people defaulting? That's why I talk about lack of advocacy on the part of the board. If people know that, okay, like the example I was trying to read, if a landlord knows that, okay, on this my rent, 90% is coming to me, so this guy has to withhold 10% and pay to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. On that simple case, government will generate more revenue. That person, on the other hand, would have complied. So there won't be any reason for penalty and interest. So why would you want to wait for penalty and interest every year or waivers every year when you can do the needful? So what I'm saying is that if the tax authorities shouldn't be reactive, they should be proactive by doing commensurate advocacy, thorough advocacy, so that we won't be coming to this topic next year over waiver and tax, interest and the like. That's my position.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olaleye. Our guest this morning, Mr. Seun Olaleye, is a chartered accountant and a tax consultant. Right. From this conversation, we will continue to encourage you to listen to us this morning. We were speaking with Mr. Olaleye about the Federal Inland Revenue's decision to waive all penalties and interests on outstanding tax liabilities at least until December of this year. Interesting conversation, but there's more to come.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Babes, now how much be sanitary pad for your area?
Omo, na play we been dey play before. Everybody wey dey this place wey be human being, na pad dey buy take do period. She go bring her wrapper, cut all her wrapper wey she get. They use the do period. This kind of nonsense be this.
Ijoma, see what you are saying to your fellow woman who is in need. Ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ti pọ̀ jù.
Now so they use clothes now. Abi we no go chop first.
Auntie Ijoma, what did my mommy ever do to you? It's not fair.
Now if a story be this, My Period, My Pride radio drama, Season 1. Now Sanitary Pad media campaign power up with support from MacArthur Foundation
and Radio Now 95.3 FM every Saturday at 10 a.m.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The general public is hereby advised to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Verify the licensing status of such schemes on this website: www.cbn.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Announcer, FSRCC.
In order to keep up with our culture of excellence and continue to bring you the very best of radio programming, we invite you, our dear esteemed listener, to share your concerns with us on any of our content and or broadcast practices that you consider unsatisfactory. You can reach us via WhatsApp on 0809 682 2595. That is 0809 682 2595. This is for us to get your feedback on our efforts to continue to build and maintain our relationship with you and also to serve you better. Thank you for choosing Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
3 people at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part
PDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that their vote does not count. If their vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story. And that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's Now Breakfast here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. It's Tuesday, the 5th of December. My name's Nabila Osman. I'm here with
Stephen Imediegu. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. And as we roll out the new face of breakfast on Tuesdays at this time, we have a new segment for you. What's it called?
Naira and Kobo.
Well, we were trying to decide whether it was Kobo or Kobo. And to be honest, I don't know if there's a Nigerian way for it. I feel like if you were up north, they would tell you it's Kobo. Because,
Yes.
you know, the way the Hausa tongue would go, it would be Kobo, Kobo view.
And that's-
1 Kobo, 2 Kobo.
It was actually up north that I
Kobo.
first heard Kobo. So that's the reason why I predominantly you will hear me say Kobo, Naira and Kobo.
Perhaps someone who actually used the coins could probably call us and tell us what it was.
I use the coins. I beg.
You don't count.
Wow.
I mean somebody who was very much conscious and aware of what's up when they were using it.
I will not
They
rise
knew
to
the
this.
value. Yeah. But look, just giving you a sense of what Naira and Kobo is about, it's a segment that focuses on the price of staples in markets here in Lagos. It will feature what is, you know, essentially a comparison of prices from 1 week into the next, and we'll be speaking with people who are traders in the market to give us a sense of how they've been coping with the economic situation. And on that note, we have for you here what is just a brief few minutes of traders in markets here in Lagos. Actually, just the market here, Lagos Island near Marina side. What's it called?
Is it Balogun? No, Balogun is this way. It's on the other side before you approach Marina. If you're coming off of Third Mainland Bridge, the Marina side markets. I always just call it Marina Market, and I leave it alone.
We'll leave it like that. Okay. But let's dive into it. Let's take a listen.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Samuel Adetutu Catering. I manage business, catering, and small canteen.
How much did you buy rice last year?
I buy rice last year. That is 27,000.
Bag of rice?
Yes.
So how much is it now?
Now it's 60,000.
60,000 naira?
Yes.
Bag of rice?
Yes.
What about the beans?
Beans is 105,000.
Now?
Yes. And I buy beans last year 17,000.
17,000?
Yes, the bag.
Bag of beans?
Yeah.
So how do you feel?
Everybody tired in Nigeria. And they're suffering. So Nigeria don't tire everybody.
So what about the business? Is it moving like last year?
At all. Shortage. Groundnut oil. I buy the groundnut oil before 6,000, 16,000. Now it's 38,000. Red oil is 36,000. Last year about 23,000. If you put the money, you can't see the half money. Even though the charcoal is before is 700. Now charcoal is 6,000 naira.
6,000 naira.
Yes, the bag, and the bag no reach like before at all. You short the bag. So you are suffering.
My name is Miss Christiana. I sell drinks.
How much you last year?
Last year. It was like, 1,650 or something like that, Sha. Maybe 1,650. Now, I think they give us, like we now, they give us 2,130. We sell for 2,150 for people that reload. While we sell for people that drink 2,002.
What about the bottled water?
Bottled water. They increase every time now. Now bottled water now they give us direct now 850. We sell for 900. We sell for 950. It depends.
Are you fine with the price?
It's not about me now. It's about people drinking it. It's not how we buy. But the fact is that there's no money and there's increment in prices. So it's not easy at all. So it's not moving like before that, Like before we used to have a drink of 100 naira. that we can buy for 1,950, we can sell for 100 naira. But now, no, all those 200 naira drink are now 150. Even very soon, I learned that the bottled water too will be going for 150. So we don't even know where we are going. We are just there, Shabo. Bless God.
And there you have it, Naira and Kobo. Our correspondent Ganiyu Adebayo walking through the markets right here in the Central Business District of Lagos and trying to find out what exactly is the price of food, of staple products. And I must say, this is a little heartbreaking to see the jump in prices. You have a bag of beans jumping from under 20,000 naira, 17,000 naira, to over 100,000 naira. So, as someone who is earning the minimum wage, how much do you need to be able to say, oh, let me buy this in bulk and use it for XYZ amount of time? You can't even afford half a bag.
No, but you know what's interesting is that we know people who earn on a lower salary scale do not typically buy in bulk. Buying in bulk is a luxury. They tell you that, yes, it's the cheaper option, but it actually is a luxury. When you go to the market, you're likely to buy for today, right? At best, you will buy for the rest of the week. And then if you've got a big family, whatever you're buying for today will likely finish within 2 meals.
Right. You know, with this jump in prices, it makes the conversation around what a national minimum wage should look like. It makes it a very, very necessary conversation. But at the same time, when we're talking about increases in the minimum wage, we should also think about what effect that will have on the markets. Because if we're saying what I'm earning should go up, then the people who are in the markets are saying perhaps what we're selling should go up as well. The last person we spoke to, Ms. Christina, indicated that there will probably be a further increase in the price of some of the goods that she sells to keep up with what the market is. I think the most heartbreaking part about this conversation is what we use to survive. Things like charcoal, that is a necessary part of the abacha stove value chain.
It went from 700 to 6,000.
Goodness
for
me,
a bag.
Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to be able to afford that? At a time when we're talking about gas prices increasing as well, we've gone from spending 9,000 naira to fill a 12.5 kg cylinder of gas to prices closer to 10 and above 10,000 naira, depending on what part of Nigeria you're doing this from. So it does look like the markets are becoming expensive for what should be the basic sustenance that you need on a daily basis. It's hard. It is hard.
You know what's interesting goes back again to the state of the economy will always be much tougher on people who are within a lower income bracket.
Right.
And you talk about the cost of charcoal, but then you also go to the cost of kerosene. Kerosene by March this year, data was showing that it was going for around more than 1,000. This was 1,100 naira plus per litre. And this is kerosene, which we don't pay so much attention to. It's why you speak to certain experts and they tell you that, oh, look, a lot of Nigerians, our focus has mostly been on PMS, but kerosene, which is very critical to the economy in rural areas, is critical for energy, whether it's in cooking, whether it's in lighting their lamps, whatever the case may be. This has always been more, well, maybe not always, but it's been more expensive than PMS for the longest time, long before we went into our post-subsidy, no post-subsidy era.
Right. And it's a little heartbreaking because if the rural communities collapse because they are unable to afford the basic things that they need to survive, it's a wonder what will happen to the rest of us. Because let's be honest, the rural communities remain the foundation for which we continue to stand and exist. But that's Naira and Kobo for you, bringing the realities of the Nigerian economy to you from the people who help us to survive. We'll return with another edition next week, Tuesday, bright and early at 7:30.
And in a few minutes, the news review comes your way.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
People at a spot and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that that vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story. And that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
This is Now Breakfast.
Grab a seat, pour a cup of coffee, and join the conversation on Now Breakfast. Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss your opinion.
The politicians in Nigeria don't understand the principle of politics.
Today's biggest news stories.
IPOB has been covered in themselves in glory. There is nothing special about them. It's like a witch cried at night and the child died early morning.
This is the news review on Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's the news review here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name's Nabila Usman here in the studio with
Stephen Imetiegu. Good morning, Lagos, once again. It is now time for us to find out what exactly are the newspapers across Nigeria saying to us today. As per usual, we're going to be looking at The Guardian and the Daily Trust newspapers to look at, the stories that are capturing the imagination of news editors across Nigeria. It is no surprise, really, Nabila, that the issue about the army is dominating the headlines. The Daily Trust carries the bold headline, Army Drone Kills Dozens. Front and center on the Daily Trust, and it focuses on the story that we spoke on earlier this morning, a story that, like I said, has been dominating conversations in Kaduna State, where an accident, yet another accidental killing of citizens happened, citizens who were gathering to celebrate a religious festival. And as heartbreaking as this is, we must reiterate, this is not the first time that this is happening in Nigeria. And it is equally heartbreaking when you understand that this is a region of the country that has bled, that has hurt, that has been, stripped of hope because of the continued attacks that they face by non-state actors. And then the very people who you expect to protect you are now responsible for 80 dead?
Actually, the number of dead continues to vary depending on the sources. They say at least 80, some are saying up to 100. And we know that the state government came out to say that they're still carrying out search and rescue efforts. And we'll come to that in a moment. Just underneath the headline, there are riders. Again, this is the front page of Daily Trust. The riders read, second bomb killed many more people during rescue, say survivors. Residents say we buried 94, some mutilated, conveyed 66 to hospital. JNI Fitianu community leaders seek compensation, and the last rider military Kaduna government incident unfortunate. So what we'll do is just very quickly, this is the acting commissioner of Homeland Security in Kaduna, Samuel Arwan, who was giving a briefing to the press yesterday. So we'll take a listen.
The Kaduna state government this morning has received briefings on Sunday night attack, which left several citizens dead and others injured at Tudumbiri in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. In the meeting, which was presided by Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor, Dr. Hadiza Sabwa Balarabi, which had in attendance heads of security agencies, religious and traditional leaders. The Nigerian Army explained the circumstances which led to the unfortunate and unintended attack. The GOC 1 Division, Nigerian Army, Major General V.U. Okoro, explained that the Nigerian Army was on a routine mission against terrorists, but unfortunately, some members of the Tudumbiri community were affected. Search and rescue efforts are still ongoing, as dozens of injured victims have been evacuated to Barrow Diko Teaching Hospital by the government. Like I explained to you, the search and rescue efforts are still ongoing. We will communicate to members of the press further development as we receive. We are sad by this unfortunate incident, and Kaduna State government, under the leadership of Senator Uba Sani, has condoled members of the entire community.
So once again, that's the Acting Commissioner of Homeland Security in Kaduna State giving a brief right on this drone attack on villages in Tudunbiri village. This village is located in Igabi local government around Rigasa. Rigasa, for a few people who've made the trip from Abuja to Kaduna by rail, the train station in Kaduna is in Rigasa community. Shortly after this statement, Muhammad Idris, who's a district head of Rigasa, actually spoke on it, and we have that here.
Well, actually accepted that this is an act of God. So we actually believe that it's not a deliberate incident. When such incident happens, definitely you will not see people. You will not see people. Even before these incidents, a lot of the villagers have fled because of this bandit issue. So it's not a situation that people are fleeing right now. Even before this time, they've been fleeing. So it's the issue of these bandits.
The issue of these bandits. Certain words have been used to describe this particular incident by people who are close to it. Unfortunate, we've heard repeatedly used. And the district head said it is an act of God. We've accepted it as an act of God. It seems to me as though there is either an attempt to downplay the severity of this situation or an attempt to simply accept it. You know, these things happen. It's as though you crushed an ant and you say, oh, we accidentally stepped on a colony of ants, and in trying to extricate ourselves from it, we were unable to stop ourselves from killing the entire colony. But just to put this in perspective, the Daily Trust is reporting the numbers of those killed in this unfortunate attack as 90 people. It is not the first time it's happened in Nigeria. Last year, one person was killed accidentally. The year before, it was 3 people. The numbers before that said 40, then 18 people, and prior to that, 60 people, then 2, 6, 20. 9 people were also killed in different attacks. 30 accidentally killed, 13 accidentally killed, 11 accidentally killed, 20 accidentally killed, 53 accidentally killed, 16 accidentally killed. Now, these numbers are numbers that have come up in accidental killings, not by insurgents or terrorists or bandits, but by the Nigerian military. Over the course of the last 9 years, accidents have happened, and it has been accepted. The question that is at the forefront of my mind is, who will take responsibility for these accidents, and what is being done to ensure that these accidents do not repeat themselves? Because let us be honest, Nigerian lives were lost in these accidents.
And perhaps that's really where the conversation is, the conversation on accountability. If we're being honest, is it possible that this was a mistake? Yes, very much so. And that's what the military has come out to say. It's what the Kaduna State government has also accepted, right? It was a mistake. However, my mistake and the military's mistake are on 2 different levels. So in terms of just accountability, in terms of care, it's of different categories to different degrees, right? Interesting that we've not heard a statement from the presidency or the president on this matter. The ministers of defense are also absent on this matter, a critical matter that involves our military. Right. We also have that as much as the governor of the state has released a statement, he's not actually in Kaduna at the moment. And some reports put him as out of the country at COP28.
Right.
So you will notice that as much as there's a statement from the governor, there is no video. There's no video evidence that shows him, going to the area to whether it's an assessment, whatever the case may be. this the emergency meeting that was called after the situation was confirmed was presided over by Deputy Governor Hadiza Balarabe Sabuwa. So, these are some of the things that typically come up when you talk about what are the accountability measures. And I understand that within the military, disciplinary measures are a different case from what happens in civilian spaces, right?
Of course.
But even with the military, we do need to agree amongst ourselves as Nigerians what is the acceptable accountability system that the military has to the Nigerian people. How do they answer to the people for things like this? And, again, these are things that we'll dive into. Our pundit joins us in just a moment. If you're just joining us, a big welcome to you. You're tuned to 95.3 FM. This is Radio Now. And on the news review this morning, we're exploring the headlines on the front pages of the Daily Trust and The Guardian. We've got the 8 a.m. headlines here on Radio Now up next. Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
Across Nigeria, Africa and the world, this is Radio Now News.
In the headlines this morning, in local news, Ogun CNG buses begin Mowe Bafo-Beja operations. APC condemns attack on Kogi Rex residents, demands probe. NAFDAC confiscates over 30 million naira worth of narcotic drugs, arrests 5 in Abuja. Governor Sani orders probe of Kaduna bomb incident. In business and economy, Naira falls to 1,170 Naira to a dollar on parallel market. In showbiz and entertainment, Spotify to cut staff by approximately 17%. On the foreign scene, Israel sends dozens of tanks into southern Gaza. And in sports, Premier League announces record £6.7 billion domestic TV deal. These are your 8 a.m. headlines here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I am Nabila Usman. Thank you for listening. The news review continues shortly. Do stay tuned.
This is Radio Now News.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
This is Now Breakfast.
Grab a seat, pour a cup of coffee, and join the conversation on Now Breakfast. Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss your opinion.
The politicians in Nigeria don't understand the principle of politics.
The day's biggest news stories.
IPOB has been covered in themselves in glory. There is nothing special about them. It's like a witch cried at night and the child died following morning.
This is the news review on Now Breakfast.
You're welcome back to the news review. This morning we are joined by Biodun Sowunmi, and to talk about some of the stories that have been captured by our dailies. Mr. Sowunmi, good morning. Welcome to the news review. We were looking just before you joined us at the headline on the Daily Trust newspapers that talks about an army drone killing dozens of Maulud celebrants in Kaduna State. We would like to get your thoughts on these stories and any other that may have captured your attention on the Daily Trust this morning.
Yes, the drone attack is quite very tragic and very unfortunate. In the first instance, my heartfelt condolences to those who love their loved ones. It's quite clear that this is not was not intended, it was not an intended action to either punish the villagers or to kill anybody other than terrorists. Now, some things absolutely went wrong, and I can immediately sends at least three issues. The first one is, did we ever carried out any drone surveillance before sending in the attack drones? Because you are supposed to do reconnaissance and be very sure of your targets before striking. The second issue is what happens to intelligence, because you cannot just rely on area surveillance alone. We still have field officers' intelligence who are supposed to feed in information so that we can avoid this kind of collateral damage, or what they call friendly bombing. And the third issue is the aspect of synergy stroke training between the Nigerian Air Force and Nigerian Army. Now, it's quite clear that it's only Nigerian Army that carried out this action. The Nigerian Navy denied being involved in any form or the other. For me, how come they're embarking on an operation that involves area bombing, and the Nigerian Navy seems not to be aware or not to be involved, even at the level of picking up information or level of satellite pictures and reviewing pictures from surveillance drones, to ensure that this kind of incident did not happen. So there are a lot of questions that need to be asked. Is it a question of training, because we are now using new technologies rather than the conventional weapons? Is it a question of training of our soldiers, or is it a question of breakdown in relationship between the security high commands, or what? How come this happened? So there are a lot of questions to be asked, and that is why I fully support the idea that the government should have a panel, to not only to look into these issues, but also determine the issues of failures, and then also culpability and the issue of adequate compensation for those who have lost loved ones. But that should not stop the defense headquarters, from particularly the Chief of Defense Staff, from initiating a thorough investigation of how this apparent intelligence failure occurred, one way or the other, whether it's area intelligence or field intelligence. We need to determine what actually went wrong with a view to prevent this in future.
Right. Well, Mr. Showunmi, with the fluctuating numbers in terms of the casualties from these accidents over the last 9 years, do you get the sense that the security forces, the Army, the Air Force, and all of them are working towards ensuring that these incidents do not repeat, do not happen again? Or is it a case of, it happens, we apologize, we pay out compensation, it happens, we apologize, we pay out compensation? Do you get the sense that we are working to ensure these incidents stop once and for all?
Yes, in a war situation, particularly when it comes to dealing with insurgency, it's quite often very difficult to avoid this kind of situation. For instance, insurgents can embed themselves. They've been in the bush, and it's a religious festival. They can easily embed themselves in civil life with a view to be part of the celebration. I'm not saying that's what happened in Kaduna, but it's not uncommon to see that kind of situation. And therefore, when the military moves in, they then assume that those who are involved in the celebration are actually insurgents. And that is why field officers is also very important. There is no local government that does not have intelligence officers at the level of SSS. So even where you don't have military intelligence officers, personnel, at least we do have other forms of way of gathering intelligence to ensure that this does not happen. So it's a difficult one, honestly speaking, but it is a preventable one. The extent of it depends on, to what extent you can prevent it depends on discipline, training, accurate information, verification, carrying out adequate surveillance, of sites before attacks, of any theater of war before attacks are ordered. And that is what has failed us in this occasion. And in my view, honestly speaking, I don't even think, given the celebration, which was well known, I don't think we should have used area bombing. Rather than we should have used land forces, to move in with a view to ensure that we prevent casualties, particularly from innocent members of the public. It's unfortunate this has happened, and we hope this will be the last time.
I mean, in many ways, we would probably want to avoid venturing into a tactical analysis, mostly because we know that the military would typically have other considerations into instances when they decide to use drone attacks as opposed to, like you said, using land forces. And really, there are still questions to be asked. When Stephen talked about just what we've done in terms of trying to avoid future occurrences, I remember, I think this was early this year or so, when the Air Force still had Air Commodore Edward Gabquet as their spokesperson, and there was a similar incident where there was the Air Force firing on civilians, and they'd said, look, we're trying to avoid this as much as possible, even though the Kaduna attack makes it the 10th in 2 years. So I want us to explore this a little further in terms of accountability, but just before then, let's open up the phone lines. 0913 5000 953. Again, that's 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111953. That's 0901 1111953. Send us a WhatsApp message to 0809 682 2595. This morning, we're discussing what has been termed a mistaken and accidental drone attack on villagers in Tudunburi village. This is in Kaduna State. The residents say they've buried up to 94 people, according to the front page of Daily Trust. The front page of The Guardian is reporting more than 80 dead. The Kaduna State government has said that they're still conducting search and rescue missions. So you can join in on the conversation. We've got John on the line. Hi, John. Good morning.
Hi, Nabila. Good morning.
Welcome, John.
There's an Army general, a U.S. Marine general, that is quoted to saying, carry out your mission and keep your honor clean. There is no honor in the Nigerian army for what has happened. And you just said now that this is the 10th time this is happening in 2 years. So really, the insurgents don't really have to do anything. They just wait for our military to do their work for them. I don't understand why the army chief still has a job this morning. He should be tendering his resignation right now. Because as far as I'm concerned, this was avoidable 100%. I don't agree with Mr. Showme that it should have been avoidable to an extent. No, this was avoidable 100%. Don't carry out the bombing. This was avoidable 100%. If you find, look, in the Battle of Fallujah, at a point in time when the insurgents were embedded with the population, the U.S. Marines went on house-to-house search of the insurgents to avoid civilian casualties. Right now, there's a war going on in Gaza. They had a ceasefire to enable civilians to be removed from the scenario. So what is so... it's not even rocket science to say there's a massive celebration going on, civilian casualties will be high, stop the mission. Do it some other way. Do it some other time. Look for an opportune time when we can isolate the insurgents and carry out the mission. Nigerians have died at the hands of our own military, and the Chief of Army Staff still has a job this morning. No. If you want to do your mission, ensure you do your mission like General Martin said, and keep your honor. There's no honor in what is happening right now.
Well,
you cannot tell me you're an officer and a gentleman, and you're sitting there calling yourself Chief of Army Staff, and Nigerians have died because of your ineptitude.
Right. John, thank you very much for your comments this morning. Dr. Paul is on the line to speak with us. Dr. Paul, good morning. Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Dr. Paul, perhaps you want to adjust. We're getting significant interference. This is better. Yes, please go ahead.
The army, they are Lord to themselves. You can't question them. They can't punish them for wrongdoing. Because, just like the last caller said, the Chief of Army Staff, she has been resigned by now. But as far as this country is concerned, whatever they decide they will do, and the give you reason why such a thing happened. You can't question them. It happened in Nasarawa. They told you why it happened. You can't question them. IT camp, something happened. So what are we talking about here? The question is, since this insurgent, are they taking this war to the insurgents? Or are they offensive, or are they on the defensive side? Are they really taking this war to them? Because I don't get it. They will tell you 200 days were killed. Tomorrow, you had them to go and slaughter many farmers in Borno. Tomorrow, they tell you 1 million insurgents surrendered. Tomorrow, you hear that the same insurgents killed others. And it's just like that. So, this one that happened now, well, Nigeria, we don't have to investigation. If properly that it was intentionally carried out, those that did it must be punished. So it will be a deterrent for future occurrence. Nigeria is a place where life is very cheap. Anybody can die, will move on. If it's a federal class flag, then that place will have passed. But even if 1 million killed, they will tell you it's only 1 million we are killed, and we move on. I don't get it in this country. Everywhere security, and we are telling that we are moving on every day. If not kidnapping, if not, I don't get it. And the military telling you they are working assiduously. Boko Haram surrendering to them and so on. I don't know.
I mean,
are we using absolute equipment? Yes.
This is why they talk about the nature, how attacks, how insecurity evolves. It's not just black and white any longer where you pick up a gun and that's it. That's why we talk about non-kinetic measures. You talk about how terrorism, for instance, evolves from being this overt thing to being covert and a battle of the mind. All of these things come up.
Well, Lamila, yes, what you said, right, that what have we achieved in this fight against terrorists? Are you saying that we have a significant measure of it? Are we saying that?
Dr. Paul, look, I hear you. In many ways, we still have a significant security issue. But let's not take away from some of the successes we've actually seen. Once upon a time, we had bombs going off on a daily basis in the northeast. It encroached into the north central as far as the capital city, Abuja. So we've seen that particular nature of attacks almost completely wiped out.
It doesn't happen again.
Have you heard of a bomb attack in Abuja?
They just know what to do. They have to see that they did not penalize the best way.
And that was the point from earlier.
If they want to carry bombing attack in Abuja, it will happen. And nothing will happen.
Just like that.
Are you? What are you saying? Are you not hearing where people are kidnapping? We are now at the demand about 30 million in the heart of Abuja.
I hear you.
You are telling me about.
You're not wrong. 2 hotel owners were kidnapped just yesterday from Abuja. Two landowners were kidnapped from Abuja just yesterday. So I'm not discounting that.
I agree on what you said, that the issue of bomb in Abuja have disappeared. Look, if they want to do it, they will do it. But it's like to them, it's no longer significant to them. They want there to make money kidnapping and others. So the issue of coming to Abuja to bomb. In fact, I am saying this straight from the show that if they want to carry that, it will happen.
Well, Dr. Paul, thank you very much.
So I don't want to, talk much on that. But when everything improves, we are going to know.
All right. Dr. Paul, thank you very much. Yemi joins us on the phone line this morning. Yemi, good morning.
Hi, Yemi. Good morning.
President.
Yemi, how are you?
President.
What's a go on?
Longest time.
Yes, it's good to hear from you. I wish you the same. Please go ahead.
Yeah, David, I listened to what you were discussing on the radio this morning. See, I keep on saying it to you, that the two bodies that need to repair this country, they are law enforcement and judiciary. If these two bodies work well, everything will move on. See, let me be sincere with you, Nabila. No amount of prayer that I want to pray. Even though the Bible said, it said prayer without works is dead. So if you are praying and there's no action, there's no way that your prayer will come to pass. So you have to move. You say, God bless me, God bless me. You wake up in the morning, you fold your hands, you don't go to work.
Yemi, it's faith without works that is dead, not prayer without works. It's faith without works is dead.
All the same, sir. but what I'm telling you in this country, see, we need to do some things that will make people to know that, oh, this is our leader. We are not cowards. See, the way they are teaching in this country, okay, I make an example for you the other time. How can somebody, you rule for 8 years, and you live there, you are still in government, you are taking pension for the state, and you say you want to repair this country. We are just deceiving ourselves in this country to cry out loud. And you see somebody that stole money 247, you take it to court will tell you that it's free. There's nothing like that. Look at this man that was arrested in the UK. They take it to court here. Court said that he doesn't steal any money. Or getting to that place, they jail that man there. So what are we talking about in this country? Our judiciary and our law enforcement, they are not killing us. Look at our road again. You are coming, you see a law enforcement, you will follow one way. And if you don't follow one way, they will arrest you. Right. Why do you have to follow one way?
Yemi, I hear you, and I understand where this is coming from, but I would like us to stick to the conversation this morning. We've still got Biodun Showunmi on the line to answer the conversation, to answer to comment on some of what we've been hearing so far. But at the moment, we can still take one more call before Biodun comes back in to speak to us. Our numbers are still the same: 0901 111 1953. We've got a call this morning.
Oh dear. Lancelot, please call us back, right? Hopefully you can make your way in 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111953. Send us a WhatsApp message 0809 682 2595.
Right, Mr. Showunmi, you're still with us this morning. You've been listening to the reactions of our listeners. Yes. What do you have to say as regards what you've heard so far?
Well, there's a mixed feelings. People are bound to feel one way or the other. There are those who are asking or who thinks the chief of army staff, should have resigned, trying to identify culpable people within the military. Currently, I don't think that is still necessary now. Once a panel has been set up, and we know the Kaduna State government intends to set up a panel, it's not just resignation, taking ownership of what has happened or responsibility for it is not just the only answer. There are other areas we need to look into. To what extent is the chief of army staff involved in the decision taking at that particular point in time? Is it the GOC? I think is one Major General Okoro. To what extent was he involved, or was it a cowboy action? Because we have had a similar thing within the military in the past, when it turned out to be a rogue Boko Haram elements who believe in Boko Haram tendency within the military, that actually committed that crime. So we need to wait for the outcome of the panel.
But Mr. Showunmi, I hear you, but we know, first of all, this is the military. The state has no jurisdiction over whatever that may be. There are questions on just how cooperative the military will be with the state government investigation. And we've not even heard from the federal government at all on this matter, right? So I'm going to come to this in a moment, Mr. Showunmi, to get your response. Okay. We've got Tijani on the line. Tijani, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I want to contribute on this matter. It's like this thing has been happening over and over and over, and it always involved the Air Force. So definitely
this one involved the military. This was the army, actually. Pardon me.
Okay, I'm talking in regards to.
You're not wrong. Previous ones
in Kaduna.
Yes, it was the army. It wasn't the Air Force.
But from the report that I listened to,
Tijani,
it was an aircraft.
Yes,
so it was
a drone, and initially it was ascribed to the Air Force, but the army came out and clarified that it was them.
Okay. But then the thing is that the innocent civilians in circumstances like this had always been targeted.
Mm-hmm.
So is it the training? Is it the procedures before attacks to be carried that they have to look at? What are the procedures? How do they know? How are they sure? Should they just, whenever they see gathering of people because of the circumstances that is happening, then those people should be targeted without being sure these are the people these are the bad guys that we want to take out? These are the questions that I think we have to ask. And the second thing is that it seems like there is no consequences at all. Even if there is, perhaps the general public have not been informed. As long as government agencies will do things and then there won't be any consequences, there won't be repercussions, definitely there will be reoccurrence of such things. And these things have been happening. I think the government have to look at, or the security agencies have to look at this. The general public pressure groups have to look at it so that at least before decisions have been taken to carry out things like this, the person will know that, yes, we are fighting bad guys, but at least there must be certainty that, yes, these are the bad guys that we are looking for, so we can go after them with all we have. I don't have anything against the government fighting these people because they are merciless to the ordinary citizens. The government should show no mercy to them. But at the same time, those people at the end should be very, very sure that the people that they are targeting are not ordinary innocent civilians. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tijani. It's worth saying here that there are procedures for identifying when an attack will happen or when the military will carry out an offensive, whether it's Army, Air Force, Navy. What happens is casualties. And you're right about the accountability question. So it's not that civilians are targeted. I need us to just, correct that particular impression. Mr. Shomi, so, just responses to this accountability matter.
Yes, in respect of accountability, we need to look at the issue in a more complex way. In the first instance, we have had a seismic shift in terms of government approach to insurgency or terrorism in Nigeria, and it's simply because the previous administration was perceived as being soft on terrorists to the point of terrorists, getting out of jail free in Kuje, and when terrorists are arrested in Lagos or in Kano, they are taken to Abuja, and before you get back to Kano, the same terrorist is back in Kano before the police officer. So we have seen a major shift from placating terrorism or negotiating with terrorists to frontally taking on this battle to deal with the terrorists, and that the current chief of army staff is doing efficiently, doing very, very well. They have scored major successes. Now, within that theater, within that sphere, you will realize that the issue of culpability in this matter goes far back up to the commander-in-chief in this situation, and it's quite clear that the president would never order that innocent Nigerians should be bombed or killed. So also, I don't believe the chief of army staff will order that people should be killed. We should not forget that we have to be very sensitive around this issue, particularly when you look at the way we easily interpret things in religious terms, in Nigeria. Those who ordered, before you know it, those who ordered will be perceived to be from one religion and the victims were from another religion. So government has to be very sensitive around that area so that we don't start pinpointing those who are culpable, and then before we know it, we inflame religious passion, and before we know it, you have some people saying, oh, we've got to take revenge. So government has to be very sensitive, and this issue of blame game, culpability, we need to be more sensitive around it. The most important thing is to avoid, a repeat. This is one killing of innocent people, too many. We need to stop this from happening again so that there will never be a repeat. But we have to manage this situation carefully and avoid a situation where we can have another deterioration, which we are not anticipating.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Showumi. We go to another headline on the Daily Trust newspapers. This one touches on the economy. Nigeria records 1.8 trillion naira surplus as foreign trade jumps by 60.7%. Positives, if you ask me, primarily because it means that what we are exporting from Nigeria has perhaps trumped what we're importing into Nigeria. So perhaps it's a positive headline for us in Nigeria, Mr. Showumi.
Yes, it's very positive for us. It shows clearly that the economy, at least in relation to oil, is beginning to recover significantly to the right level. Previously, if you remembered about January, February, March, up till April, we're only producing 1 million barrels a day. Then later it went up to 1.3 million barrels a day. And by October, we've been able to condensate. If you add the condensate to it, we've been able to produce up to 1.6 million barrels a day. And that is good for the economy in the sense that we'll have new, more foreign currency coming in, which will help to stabilize the naira over a period of time. Even though the revenue being made now will not be paid until 3 months later, given the nature of the contracting system in the oil industry. But in the next 6 months, we should begin to see naira stabilizing, then our foreign exchange reserve, going up. That's provided if we're able to sustain the current level of production. Then, in relation to the non-oil sector, we are also expecting, an increase in oil in non-oil exports, and that will bring in more revenue. Since our major problem is not actually the naira, but is the foreign currency, since our economy is still highly dollarized. So it's a good news for the country. If you're able to sustain that, then we might be looking at at our growth, a review of our growth forecast, up to 3 or 3.4, and that would be good for the economy one way or the other.
So let's take a moment now, call out the phone lines, join the conversation. This is the news review on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. It's Tuesday the 5th of December. Our guest is Mr. Biodun Showumi, and so far we've discussed the drone that dropped a bomb on Tudunbiri village in Kaduna State, and the army coming out to claim responsibility for that. They said that it was a mistake. Numbers vary, where on Daily Trust's front page they report that villagers say they've buried at least 94 people. They've buried 94 people. The Guardian says more than 80 people are dead. We know that rescue operations are still ongoing. So this has been our first conversation. We're also discussing the economy. We recorded a trade surplus, right? We exported more than we imported in the first 9 months of this year. Foreign trade jumped by 60.7%. What are your thoughts on the discussion so far? 0913 5000 953. Again, 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111953. That's 0901 1111953. Send a WhatsApp message to 0809 6822595. Now, Mr. Showumi, turning your attention for a moment to another headline, front page of The Guardian on page 3, NBS, only 1.5% of households affected by 2022 floods received government support. There are many questions here, right? But more immediately, I think that in many ways we've been spared what is a successive disaster. This year, we did not see the floods that we recorded last year. We didn't see the level, that scale of destruction and disruption. And one would think that in that time we've been able to shore up our defenses in whichever way. Perhaps we have. Maybe that's part of why we're not seeing what we saw last year. We didn't hear of the Lagdo Dam essentially letting out water without our preparation, right? But this is still a significant source of concern. concern, and I wonder what your general thoughts are when you consider the part about receiving government support and then just our shoring up our defenses.
Yes, one, we've not been very good in the way we respond to emergencies, like flooding problem. It's not just enough, to rescue the people or to prevent to embark on preventative measures. It's also important to ensure restoration in terms of those who have lost their economy or lost one way or the other or their property are supported by the government. We have not been very good in doing that, and I'm not surprised by the MBS report, actually confirming that. But again, one thing we've been very bad in doing is also seeing problems and harnessing it, seeing it as opportunities rather than problems. The flood, for instance, in Benue, and also the one in Lagos, in the Sherry area, Baga area, can actually be viewed in a very positive light. The one in Benue, caused by the release of the water from the Cameroon Dam, can easily be dealt with, because what you see is the government response is always to ask people to move to upland, rather than looking at expanding, dredging the whole lowland in a way that we can create a blue economy, a new marine economy around it, and turn it into, a good opportunity for an aquatic village or an aquatic town, build a new economy completely, rather than it being a challenge. It will not be a new opportunity, growing the economy, and the people's life will not be devastated by it. We've not been doing that. And same thing when you look at the one in Lagos, in the Sherry area, that's a very prime land area. What they simply need to do is the water, the flood from there is coming from Ogoshun Dam, the Oyo Dam, which is towards Igbora, right in Ogun State itself. What they simply need to do is to dredge the river Niger, the Ogun River, turn it into a massive, around Abeokuta, a massive waterfront, in a way that they can build the longest, man walk, around the river, along the river, turn it into a massive opportunity, for tourists, and build a new economy around it, with a way view to contain the water there, rather than allowing the water to get to Isheri in Baga and devastating the whole community. Then the old land on the left, if you're going towards Ibadan from Baga at Isheri, on the left will now become habitable. Those are prime lands, which the proceeds from it alone will be more than enough to solve some of these problems. So we've not been harnessing opportunities. We see everything as a problem, rather than looking at it and say, look, what do we do? How can we, turn this round and make it an opportunity for our people, opportunity for development, grow the economy, and grow tourism?
Right, but to still follow up on this, Mr. Showomi, why do you think there's such a low number of households who have been compensated for, or rather, who have received government support from the floodings that took place last year? Why do you think this number is so low? I mean, 1.5%?
Yes, two factors. One is the economy was prostrate until recently, that things are beginning to pick up. There was no cash. We should also not forget that particularly in Benue State, where many people were badly affected, the former Governor Otom did not pay salaries for the civil service servants for 9 months, and people in parastatus for 18 months. So there's no way, it's quite clear that there's no way he would have been able to find the money to compensate, the victims of flooding in Benue.
I have to say that, for one, we have emergency funds for a reason, right? And this is at national and state level. So the big questions: where was that fund? Why wasn't it? Again, we didn't see this level of flooding. We hadn't seen it in more than a decade. So one would think that this was a fund that was being built up year on year. This wasn't money that we necessarily needed to go out and find from somewhere. We were supposed to already have it. it. And you come back to the fact that this is the state, it's the government. You refer to a governor who influenced the amendment of the retirement law that determines the gratuities and pensions he would receive. He increased it to 300% of whatever the sitting governor would be earning. So, you just have to ask these questions when we're talking about whether the state had funds or not.
Yes, you are right. If you are looking at it, you are talking about an ideal situation. But that the situation is not ideal in Nigeria. It's one thing to vote money for budget, is another thing for that money to be released. That is one major problem. And government also get themselves involved in variation. If there is no problem, no flooding problem in 1 year, they tend to move the money to another sector where they think they need the money more. Of course, it's against the law, but we do that. The other factor is the human factor, the Nigerian factor, which is corruption. We all know what happens. Even when money are released, we end up, either paying ghost victims of flooding, or when you pay the real people, you don't pay enough, or one way or the other, or the payments are delayed. These are part of the Nigerian problems, which we have not been able to resolve. There is, of course, the National Emergency Management Agency responsible for, is a response agency, to deal with national emergencies, but they do not necessarily keep any for reserve. Don't forget, the federal government through the TSA, as we are housed all money, into one account, kept with CBN. So therefore, any money you need, you have to apply for it. It's the same thing with lecturers and doctors. Before you can recruit doctors or recruit lecturers in Nigeria, you must first apply. And there are 5 agencies that will have to approve it, government agencies, before you're allowed to even recruit one person. So it's the same thing with money. We've over-centralized the whole financial system in a way that even when you have a national emergency, you have to apply, and that depends on the wins and caprices of the 5 agencies that will approve before the money is eventually released. So these are part of the problems which we have to deal with one way or the other. We need to break down, the bureaucratic bottlenecks, right, and ensure that there's a fund reserve to deal with national emergency outside the TSA.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Somi. This has been a very good conversation with you this morning on the News Review. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the News Review. We've been looking at stories making the headlines across Nigeria. Now Breakfast continues, but it is now time for us to have business conversations with Aramide Folorunsho on Business Now. Do stay with us.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
People at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
GDP is not a good measure of development anyway. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story. And that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news. Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram.
At Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
From the Central Business District of Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, this is 95.3 Business Now.
Oh, well, welcome to the program, everyone. I am Aramide Folorunsho. It's Tuesday, the 5th of December. These are the Business Quick Takes. Moody's Investor Service, one of the world's top 3 rating agencies, says operating conditions will remain for banks in Africa, with Egypt, Kenya and Tunisia banks having large refinancing needs, including foreign exchange. In a new report released on Monday, Moody's says the key trends negative for African bank will be driven by tighter policies from central banks around the world, in particular around interest rates. We have an analysis on this for you later on the show. In the meantime, a total of $57 billion has been so far pledged towards climate adaptation action programs by countries attending the ongoing UN Climate Summit, or COP28, taking place in Dubai. Speaking in an interview on the debate around fossil fuels at the summit, Saudi Arabia's energy minister says his country will not slow down anytime soon on crude oil production. A US-based oil firm, Baker Hughes, has expressed interest in investing in refineries in Nigeria as the federal government intensifies efforts to end the import of petroleum products. Reacting to this, the Nigerian Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lopebiri, stated that the American energy giant's action will support Nigeria's effort to enhance its production of gas and oil, as well as its domestic processing of crude oil. Multilateral development banks at the UN Climate Summit on Monday released a joint statement expressing their commitment to scaling up finance, enhancing climate outcome measurements, strengthening country-level collaboration, and increasing co-financing and private sector engagement. The announcement, which comes via a joint statement, reaffirms the commitment of big development banks to be socially inclusive, gender responsive, and nature positive, while leveraging different mandates, unique country and client networks, operating models, geographies, and expertise. Nigeria's leading Pan-African bank, the United Bank for Africa, has emerged as the African Bank of the Year at the 2023 Bankers Awards, organized by the Banker magazine, a publication of the Financial Times of London. UBA also emerged as the Bank of the Year in 8 of the 28 countries it operates in, marking the second consecutive time UBA has won the regional award as the best bank in Africa. Well, coming up after the break, a deep dive analysis of Moody's negative outlook report on the global banking industry. Join us again, everyone.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
People at a spot and angry mob decided to burn.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
Be a part of our online community on Facebook. Like our page on www.facebook.com/This is Radio Now to join every conversation on air and get up-to-date news information on the go.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Welcome back to Business Now. Moody's Investor Service says in a new report released yesterday that its outlook for global banks in 2024 is negative, as central banks' tighter monetary policies have resulted in lower GDP growth. And there is more in the Moody's report around reduced liquidity, loan quality, asset risk, funding costs, FX liquidity, among others. Let's get some perspectives into this now with Joshua Odebisi, a financial services research analyst at Rand Merchant Bank. Good morning, and thanks for coming through for this conversation.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Do you agree with Moody's outlook that the era of central bank tightening is not really over yet, and that the rates loosening would have its own implication for banks around the world?
Well, definitely I agree that it's not yet quite time for loosening to start. I know that the US Fed
is anticipating or expecting to cut rates sometime next year because they are seeing a slowdown in their inflation rate. But the thing is, they don't want to go too quickly, pull the trigger too fast, because that might, cause a reoccurrence of the high inflation rates if they were to do that. On the other hand, if you look at all the other, let's say the EU, the UK, and other developed countries, they are seeing some definite improvements in inflation rates, but I'd say that anything that causes them to slow down or to reverse their current course would not come too quickly. So definitely there is some truth to that. And in the eventuality that they do start to cut rates and go into loosening their monetary policy, it will have some pretty significant implications, especially for a country like Nigeria. Because if the US Fed does cut rates 6 times next year, and they do so aggressively, all those attractive yields that foreign investors, international investors have been able to park their money in American bonds and bills for the last couple of years, all of that will probably reverse, and then they will turn to developing markets to look for those attractive yields once again and to try and come up with excessive returns.
Indeed, but again, why do you think FX shortages would be a strain on liquidity for banks in some emerging and frontier markets?
Well, like I said, the truth is, currently we're seeing that play out. I mean, in the sense that, obviously, our own inflation has been quite high, almost as a result of the policies on that end, as well as some mismanagement on our end as well. But, of course, because of the fact that the entire world economy practically runs on the US dollar, if there is a shortage for any reason, that commodity becomes a lot more expensive and more difficult to obtain. So that will definitely impact the price of the commodity and the price of goods that are bought with that currency as well.
And what do you make of the key trends that Moody's highlighted as negative for banks in Africa?
Well, I think that at the moment, there are definitely quite a number of things that are going to negatively affect banks and banking on the continent, or have been doing so for a while. Obviously, from high inflation rates, although the Nigerian banks, because of the fact that they were able to park their money or go get long on the dollar, they sort of were a bit insulated from that. On the other hand, a lot of foreign international banks on the continent have struggled with things like natural disasters, which have affected agriculture. Manufacturing is a very big one. Power generation. All these industries have been negatively affected. And when your real industries are affected negatively, the banks will be affected, because obviously it affects their ability to generate income from the loans that they are giving out to these industries. Because all of the banks have given out loans to all the affected industries. And so as a result, they are negatively impacted when those industries do poorly and the industries are not generating as much revenue as they were before, because that will lead to higher non-performing loans, default, and the like.
Let's break this down to Nigeria now. What would all of these mean for Nigerian banks and as the CBN charts a new policy direction as recently announced?
Okay, well, thankfully, Nigeria is a very different case. We're not probably going to see a slowdown in inflation at the same rate at which the developed economies have. That means that as a result, we'll probably not be expecting the CBN to cut rates. As a matter of fact, we still expect them to aggressively hike rates to try and combat runaway inflation, because our inflation is approaching 30%, and we're trying to bring that back under control. And I know that that is part of what the CBN governor highlighted in his remarks, that they will follow traditional monetary policy direction. And so I expect that they will eventually hike rates further, which can only be a positive for the bank. Unfortunately, the higher the interest rates are, the more the banks are able to make, because they mark up their current loans. Any new loans will be at much higher rates. So revenue is never going to be an issue for them, although there is a potential risk towards higher non-performing loans, obviously, because the loans that have been taken out will be more expensive to maintain. However, I think that the banks have been quite good at maintaining low risk levels. So I think it's only a positive, at least for the majority of 2024, until runaway inflation is put under control, which I'm not entirely sure will happen within the short space of 12 months. But until that happens, then we might start to see a reversal and lower rates, and maybe then we'll start to see an impact on the banks.
All right, Joshua Odebisi, Financial Services Research Analyst at Rand Merchant Bank. Thank you for your time and the perspectives that you brought into the latest Moody's Global Banking Industry Report. Do have a great day ahead.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. Well, let's walk you through the Monday's trading day, starting off with equities. The stock market in Nigeria kicked off the week with a negative performance that was driven by sell pressures on Boa Cement, 10% loss. Zenith Bank also fell 0.43%. UBA 0.23%. Oando 2.12%. Dangote Sugar also in the waters 0.43%. Fidelity Bank 1.11%. All of these resulting in a 0.66% decline in the NGX All Share Index. So let's look at cross-frontier African markets. We'll start with the Egyptian main index. That jumped 2.28%, and the Kenya Burse posted a 1.46% advance on Monday. Here in West Africa, the regional exchange in Abidjan slumped by 0.17%. The Ghana stock market pulled back by 0.66%. In Southern Africa, we've got the Zimbabwe stock market that declined by 0.20%, while the JSE in South Africa was positive, ending trading day by 0.23%. So now we're back on Broad Street, where overnight lending rate among commercial banks here in Nigeria narrowed by 11 basis points to 16.2% to start the new market week. And looking at fixed income, the Nigerian Treasury Bill secondary market activities closed with mixed sentiment as average yield paired by 1 basis point, finishing at 10.5%. And trading in the Treasury bond secondary market were bullish. The average yield narrowed by 8 basis points to 15.6%. The Debt Management Office is selling the monthly savings bonds this week and is offering a 2-year and a 3-year instrument at 12% and 13% each. So let's look at foreign exchange. The Naira climbed sharply by 10.7% to 837 Naira 77 kobo against the US dollar at the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market. And a quick look at oil prices, which held steady on Tuesday amid uncertainty over voluntary output cuts by OPEC Plus, and as continued tension in the Middle East spurred supply concern. Brent crude futures edged up 13 cents to $78.16 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 18 cents at $73.22 a barrel. Well, oil prices had climbed in the previous trading session as traders doubted that supply cuts by OPEC Plus would have a significant impact, and as a stronger US dollar weighed on commodity prices in general. That's what CMC market analyst Tina Tank said. A stronger dollar typically makes oil more expensive for holders of other currencies, which could dampen oil demand. And Saudi Arabia's energy minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman told Bloomberg in an interview on Monday that OPEC Plus oil production costs can absolutely continue past the first quarter if needed. Well, that's your business now for today, Tuesday, the 5th of December. I am Army Day Florence. We thank you for listening. It's bye for now.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
I'm Chris
Chris. I'm a trader operating a chain of supermarkets. I engage in monthly comfortable contributions with my insurance company. It gave me the opportunity to inject capital into my business during peak periods and reap handsome returns. I never knew that an insurance company can be that helpful. Kudos to Mutual Benefits Assurance for such innovative and business-sustaining insurance products.
Take advantage of the delightful offers and experience the peace that comes with knowing that you can count on Mutual Benefits Assurance to protect you and what you value the most. Call Mutual Benefits Assurance today on 0905 474 4444 to get started and enjoy these and more, or visit www.mutualng.com for more information. Mutual Benefits Assurance, creating and protecting wealth.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At RadioNow953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at RadioNow953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
You're welcome back into it. It's still Now Breakfast on your Beyond the News station, Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. You just listened to Business Now with Aramide for Lauren Shaw. Coming up in a few short moments is the news at 9, and it's going to be followed by Tech Now. On Tech Now this morning, we're going to be talking about an issue that we feel is very, very relevant to you. Technology has a way of changing the conversation, and when it comes to money, technology is very, very important to how we address these issues. That's just the tip of the iceberg that you will receive this morning on Tech Now when you join us directly after the news at 9, which will be brought to you by the one and only Nabila Usman.
Technology is constantly evolving, and artificial intelligence is powering everything around us.
So for nations to continue to survive in the world where artificial intelligence is now everywhere around us, we must participate in governance structure in terms of how it is managed.
At Radio Now 95.3 FM, we're telling the story of the evolution of technology like nobody else can. Now that's another reason to listen to us.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Across Nigeria, Africa, and the world, this is Radio Now News.
The All Progressives Congress yesterday condemned the attack on the residence of Resident Electoral Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Kogi, Gabriel Longpet. Mr. Longpet's residence in Lokoja, the state capital, was invaded by some yet-to-be-identified gunmen in the early hours of Friday. Announcing the attack, the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC chair, Rotimi Oyekomi, said the wreck was hale and hearty, adding that the security personnel attached to him were able to hold off the attackers until reinforcements arrived. In the wake of the attack, the APC in Kogi and the opposition Social Democratic Party traded blame, with both sides accusing the other of being the mastermind. While the SDP called for an immediate investigation into the incident, the state APC called for the immediate arrest of the SDP's governorship candidate Murtala Ajaka. Also in the news, Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State has ordered a full investigation into Sunday's military airstrike at Tudumbiri village, which claimed the lives of over 50 people. The villagers were observing Maulud celebration and were mistakenly killed, according to the state government. The government also said many others were injured following a military drone attack targeting terrorists and bandits. In a statement issued to condole the people of the village, the governor said his administration is determined to prevent a repeat of the incident. He reassured the citizens that their security and protection will be prioritized in the sustained fight against terrorists, bandits, and other criminal elements.
international news.
The Israeli army has sent dozens of tanks into southern Gaza as part of an expanded action against Hamas, despite global concerns over mounting civilian deaths and as communications were cut across the besieged territory. Weeks after Israel deployed ground forces in the north of the Gaza Strip, the army has been airdropping leaflets in parts of the south, telling Palestinians to flee to other areas. Gaza's health ministry says nearly 15,900 people have been killed in the territory, about 70% of them women and children, during Israel's air, artillery and naval bombardments alongside its ground campaign. The toll has sparked global alarm and mass demonstrations, with a group of global leaders called the Elders accusing Israel of what they called disproportionate action. They called on governments providing military assistance to Israel to rethink their approach. The group said in a statement that Israel's retaliation has, in their own words, reached a level of inhumanity towards Palestinians in Gaza that is intolerable.
Sports News.
The English Premier League announced on Monday that it had agreed to a record £6.7 billion domestic television rights deal for a 4-year period starting from the 2025-26 season. The current deal is reported to be worth around £5 billion over a 3-year cycle and covers 200 matches per season. The English Top Flight League hailed the agreements shared between different broadcasters as the largest sports media rights deal ever concluded in the United Kingdom. Sky Sports and TNT Sports have retained their rights to show live matches, with Amazon currently showing 20 matches per season, not part of the next cycle. Sky will screen a minimum of 215 live matches per season, while TNT will broadcast 52. BBC Sport and its Match of the Day highlights program is part of the new deal. And that's the news at 9 a.m. here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. You can listen online from anywhere in the world at www.thisisradionow.com. Simply click on the Listen Live button and you can take us with you wherever you go. Connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/This is Radio Now and on all other platforms at Radio Now 953 FM. Share your thoughts and opinions with us on WhatsApp to the WhatsApp line 0809 682 2595. I am Nabila Usman. Thank you for listening. Now breakfast continues shortly. Do stay tuned.
This is Radio Now News.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Kwamitin kula da daidaita harkokin tsarin kuɗi wato FSRCC tare da haɗin gwiwar hukumar yada labarai ta ƙasa wato NBC na mai ƙoƙarin yin gargaɗi ga mutane domin su ƙaurace wa 'yan damfara da ke damun al'umma wato IFOs wanda hakan haɗari ne ga jama'a da kuma tsarin hada-hadar kuɗaɗen Najeriya. Ana mai shawartar gaba ɗaya mutane da su guji yin mu'amala da masu gudanar da harkokin kuɗaɗe marasa lasisi. Ku tabbatar da kun yi binciken matsayin lasisin waɗannan kamfanonin da tsare-tsarensu akan waɗannan yanar gizon. www.cbn.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng domin kai korafi ga duk wanda ake zargi ga wannan haramtacciyar harka zuwa ga hukumomin doka da suka dace. A kira 0700 225 5226 0800 225 5226 ko +234 817 665 6273 FSRCC.
The issues are all around us, but who talks about them? Law enforcement breaking the law, property owners ripping off tenants, political office holders taking the electorate for granted, or is it the plague of recurring bad policies made by the government? These are the issues. Let's talk about these and more at the Round Table. Stay locked on to Radio Now 95.3 FM every weekday as we discuss these hot topics around us on The Roundtable on Now Express. The Roundtable, weekdays, 5:30 p.m.
1, 2, 3, Get in on the action. Yeah. It's a game show that guarantees you massive cash wins. Hello. It's Trivia. Join Doris every Tuesday at 8 p.m. to win big on Trivia Now. It's exclusive to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Trivia Now. Win big, win it all.
What do cryptocurrencies, the National Information Technology Development Agency, space exploration, video games, music streaming, and artificial intelligence have in common? From education to finance, to agriculture, to health, to music and film. Technology continues to transform modern socio-economic life in expected and unexpected ways. On Tech Now, we break down concepts, analyze technology news, and speak to members of the vast tech ecosystem. To find out, tune in to Tech Now every Tuesday at 9:05 a.m. on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
3 people at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part have broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story. And that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Tech Now, right here on Now Breakfast on your Beyond the News station, Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I'm Stephen Imediegu, and I'm not alone. I am with
Nabila Usman.
To jump right into the conversation this morning, we have news that Payday, a fintech that's backed by MoneyPoint, is in talks to be acquired by Bitmama, a Nigerian crypto exchange startup. Bitmama is led by CEO Ruth Iselema. It has reportedly offered Payday investors $1 million worth of equity in the crypto company at a $30 million valuation. Now, for a potential acquirer, it will mean that they don't have to start Changara, Bitmama's relatively new remittance service, from the scratch. They will also not need to create a new software stack or spend on acquiring new users.
And still in tech-related news, Nasser El-Rufai, the former governor of Kaduna State, has revealed that he has launched a $100 million venture fund to invest in the innovative ideas of young Nigerians, starting with the tech ecosystem in northern Nigeria. He announced that the fund will be managed by a newly launched VC firm called Afri Venture Capital. It will begin operations in Abuja next month.
And from Abuja, we go over to Kenya, where Sky Garden, a Kenyan e-commerce startup, after being acquired by Kenyan fintech startup Lipa, has launched its operations with a reported $1.6 million investment. Sky Garden is a subsidiary of Lipa Later, and it provides merchants access to financing, real-time transaction monitoring, direct bill payments, deposits and withdrawals to M-Pesa or bank accounts, and the option to open a bank account. Now, additionally, shoppers can buy items directly from the e-commerce marketplace. According to Eric Muli, the CEO at Lipa Later, the vision is to be an e-commerce catalyst for businesses and communities across Africa. And from all of that tech news, we now turn to the conversation that we have planned for you this morning. Now, internet connectivity or broadband in Nigeria has seen growth in recent years. According to the Nigeria Communications Commission, the NCC, the number of people connected to the internet has risen to 159.5 million across mobile, fixed and voice over internet protocol networks. Now, beyond these numbers, the sector has also seen the introduction of 4G and 5G connection services, developments that are very critical for internet-based businesses to thrive. But despite these achievements, the telecom sector is still marred by a lack of connection in rural communities, poor network coverage even in the urban spaces, and a lack of adequate infrastructure to boost internet coverage. Our guest this morning is Faith Omoniyi, a reporter with Tech Cabal, and he joins us to discuss the present and future of internet connectivity in the country.
Technology is constantly evolving, and artificial intelligence is powering everything around us.
So for nations to continue to survive in the world where artificial intelligence is now everywhere around us, we must participate in governance structure in terms of how it is managed.
At Radio Now 95.3 FM, we're telling the story of the evolution of technology like nobody else can. Now that's another reason to listen to us.
You're welcome back to Tech Now on your Beyond the News station, Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. As promised, we're joined by Faith Omoniyi from Tech Cabal to talk about the present and future of internet connectivity in Nigeria. Mr. Omoniyi, good morning and welcome to Tech Now.
Hi, hello, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Good morning. All right, Mr. Omoniyi, is it possible for you to give us a sense of what the 5G network looks like? I understand that a few of the telecom providers in Nigeria have rolled out the service, but as far as its accessibility to the general public is concerned, is it possible for you to tell us just how far this reach is at the moment? Hello, Mr. Omoniyi. All right, we apologize. It does appear that we're experiencing some connection problems with Mr. Omoniyi this morning, but the conversation will continue momentarily. We're speaking about the 5G and 4G network, the connection services that are available in Nigeria. Now, it is, if you want, a bit of poetic justice that we're experiencing this sort of troubles. As we have pointed out in this conversation, the urban spaces across Nigeria do not exactly have the coverage that we need to have, life go on the way that we anticipate that it will. Mr. Omoniyi joins us now. Mr. Omoniyi, good morning. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Mr. Omoniyi, I wanted to ask, the 5G connection services have been announced by a few of our telecoms providers. Is it possible for you to give us a sense of how far-reaching these connection services are as far as the availability to users across Nigeria?
Okay, that's very cool. So the rollout of 5G network generally in Nigeria is still in its early stages, but then the potential for transformative changes is definitely undeniable. But the issue now is that the current network that we have in like the 4G network, they're not even serving enough people at the moment. We know 5G network is already in Lagos, it is already in Abuja, it's already in Port Harcourt, but most of the rural areas do not benefit from this 5G rollout, and we already know that internet connectivity is like the lifeblood of every economy. It affects different spheres of life, and of course, generally, the deployment is still in the early stages for now.
Well, Mr. Omoni, I hear you when you say the lifeblood of every technology, but it does make me wonder whether it's the lifeblood of every economy, whether it's the lifeblood of the Nigerian economy. On a normal basis, we even talk about the informal sector and how much that is a buffer for us during times of recession. These are people who will not typically depend on technology in much the same way that you and I would. So would you really say that the Nigerian economy is very dependent on tech?
I wouldn't say that, but I feel like the Nigerian economy is dependent on tech, because the average market woman who wants to make a transaction relies on USSD, for instance, and that's still tech in some sense. If she cannot access, of course, we know that internet access in rural areas are very poor, and not everybody is very digitally literate. So I feel like internet connectivity is still like the lifeblood. I know that we can still do better. Can do better in terms of internet penetration. We can do better in terms of access, and we can also do better in terms of digital literacy for the everyday person, for the normal person on the street. Yeah.
Right, I hear you. And so we're talking about numbers now. 159.5 million active connections so far. Now, it's estimated that Nigeria's population is 200 million people. Are we focusing on what is important in that we're rolling out more connection services? 5G is here. We're still getting used to 4G and all that it can do, but 5G is available. Shouldn't we instead be concentrating on the, if you want to call it, the 40 or 40 something million people across Nigeria who do not have the basic internet connection services?
Yes, you are very correct, because we should really focus on them. Most of the current internet connectivity that we have, most of the fiber cables that are run through the country, they are heavily present in urban areas. So let me just use myself for example. I schooled in Federal University of Ekiti, and Oye is like a very remote area of Ekiti State. We barely have internet speed of 1.3 megabytes per second, and that's very, very, very poor. So the thing is that most of the fiber optic network, they are laid in urban areas like Lagos, Port Harcourt, and they ignore rural areas. And the reason why rural areas are often ignored is because of the right of can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. Hello? Mr. Omoni, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. I said the reason why these fiber optic cables are not really spread around is because of the expensive right-of-way network charge. So most times, the current right-of-way charge for laying fiber optic cable in Nigeria is currently 145 naira per linear meter. But you see, in places like Lagos, for example, they might charge up to 850 to 1,005 per linear meter, and this is really having an effect on the telcos themselves. Because when the government charges excessively for this internet infrastructure to be laid everywhere, it then bounces back to the amount we have to pay for calls, the amount we have to pay for internet service, and all of those things. So I feel like if the right-of-way network can be maybe subsidized or reduced a little bit, it will not discourage these companies, these telecommunications companies, from investing in new infrastructure. And when they invest in new infrastructure, when they can spread all of those infrastructure to all of the rural areas, I feel like we can now have more and better internet connectivity, and we can have reliable internet for everybody in the country.
I mean, I hear you on the matter of right-of-way, but we know that there are certain states, there's at least up to 8 states in the country that have waived right-of-way for the laying of fiber optic. 7. Osun State joined them just in March this year, so that should bring the number up to somewhere around 8.
And okay, yeah.
That then raises the question of why in these states we've not seen some sort of marked improvement.
Oh, that's very true. That's very true.
So you don't.
Of course, they might.
Yeah,
Okay.
please go ahead.
You wanted to say something?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, of course. In Nigeria, when we say we have waived something, or when we say we are going to establish or launch 100 electric buses in everywhere, for example, that's just the news. But before we see the implementation, it will take like donkey years. So I know some of these states have waived right of way. And another thing to consider is that most of these telcos, they will rather invest in places that will bring in returns. So for example, MTN, for example, will want to make internet connectivity better in Lagos, in the urban part of Lagos, because they know that there's a demand for internet, right? There's a demand for internet in those places, and they'll make more money. Aside that, I know that they might have waived right of way fees, but then most of the time implementation usually takes time in Nigeria, and we might be looking at maybe some 2 years or 3 years before this telco begin to like implement all of these structures generally.
Right. So, are there options? Because it sounds to me as though, like you have pointed out, the telecoms usually target areas where they have an existing market. But it sounds to me as though the 40-something million people that are in the rural areas that don't have connection to the basic facilities are a market in and of themselves. So, apart from the right-of-way conversation, are there options that our governments can explore to make the, I would say, the internet market more attractive to foreign investors and other telecoms that may exist and want to get into the rural areas but are scared of the cost of actually laying down their fiber optic cables?
Okay, other options would be to generally improve the economy. There's no silver bullet to it. It's just to generally improve the economy. So MTN, for example, or all of these telcos, they run their facilities on diesel. And we know that in the past, diesel's fuel prices have skyrocketed. And all of these companies will not just take the losses. They are going to like inflict it up on the customers. Now we see that our data prices are rising. So generally, the long and short answer is just improve the economy. When the economy is improved, when there's little or reduced inflation, people can come in to invest. Because if there's inflation, if inflation is skyrocketing, if prices of infrastructure is high, if prices of diesel is high, prices to run the business is generally high, it will discourage people. Now businesses are leaving Nigeria. GSK just left Nigeria in the pharmacy industry, and as a result of that, the prices of inhalers or the prices of drugs that GSK formerly offered have skyrocketed because there are no alternatives. Now we have to bring in or import new ones. So generally, the long and short answer is to like improve the economy. Other alternatives are a bit expensive. You might want to look at maybe Starlink, for example, that Elon Musk offered. But Starlink is for the rich ones. It's for the rich ones, really. It's for rich ones. So I do not feel like people in the rural areas who cannot even afford smartphone, for example, will be able to afford Starlink. Do you get my drift?
So this actually takes me to the conversation around Facebook. This was just yesterday, I believe. The head of the NCC, the Nigeria Communications Commission, he announced that the federal government is willing to work with Meta, Facebook, that's the Facebook arm in this case, to see the fulfillment of laying an undersea cable, which then takes us to, I think this was last year or 2 years ago with Google and the Equiano cable, fiber optic cable that hit this side of the coast, the African coast. So the question really is around these foreign investors and what we could possibly benefit from these undersea cables, considering that our infrastructure cannot even take it. We still have a penetration issue.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like for that, I know Meta is planning to like lay a 45,000 kilometer long undersea cable, which Nigeria will benefit alongside other 32 African countries. And we also know that Main also have this undersea cable. Nigeria would greatly benefit from that. And another benefit would be that government should collaborate more with these entities and provide maybe incentives for this kind of things. Provide incentive and most likely reduce taxes on all of these telecommunications equipment, basically. And I feel like with this, and another thing is that I think we rely heavily too much on all of this external investment. What are we doing for ourselves? What are we doing for ourselves? I know Bosu Tijani said that in the strategic plan, said they're going to lay 95,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables across the country, and we know that there's currently 40,000 kilometers cable currently. But if that is laid, if they can even achieve 75% of that, I feel like there will be improved internet connectivity all over Nigeria, and both in the rural areas.
Well, Mr. Omoni, thank you very much for speaking to us. This has been a very enlightening conversation. Our guest this morning was Faith Omoni, a reporter with Tech Cabal, and he joined us to talk about the introduction of 5G connection services in Nigeria, because the Nigeria Communications Commission has said that the number of people in Nigeria connected to the internet has risen to 159.5 million Nigerians, and that's across mobile, fixed, and voice over internet protocol networks. That leaves some 40-something million people not connected over the internet. But whether or not that number will change, we will bring you all the details right here on Tech Now on your Beyond the News station. It's still Now Breakfast, and up next we ask you to stay with us as we have got Community Watch happening in just a few clicks. Good morning.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations. The more we talk about it, the less we fight about it.
This is not a natural disaster. This is a lack of planning. The money that these people have been borrowing over the years that have indebted this country so much, where are those money that they borrowed gone into?
This Lagos flooding has shown that Lagos is not working for people in Lagos.
Join the conversation. Dial 0913 5000 953.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
3 people at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that their vote does not count. If their vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's still Now Breakfast here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name's Nabila Usman here in the studio with
Stephen Diego. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And again, just a reminder that our lineup has us on Community Watch this morning, 9:30 a.m. Mondays to Fridays. And what's Community Watch? We're asking what's going on in your neck of the woods, wherever it is that you may be. See, you might be in the remotest area of the world, like the coldest tundras of the planet Earth. And yes, I'm insisting on that simply because there's almost nowhere that you go to. No, there's no almost. There's nowhere you'll go to that a Nigerian is not somewhere there. I can assure you that even if you don't know the Nigerian, Stephen's brother is somewhere there. One of his brothers, he just carried the person and flung the person across.
I would be outraged, except that I actually agree with that sentiment. I served in a remote village in Nasarawa State, a village called Azara, and I found brethren of mine, my kindred, present in Azara. Granted, they may never have been to the part of town where we come from, but you could tell that these gentlemen and ladies were from the same part of town as me. So I admit, I look forward to meeting my brother, the Eskimo, somewhere in the North Pole.
There you have it. So look, on Community Watch this morning, we're discussing travel.
Yes, and as we're discussing travel, we spoke to quite a few people, and just to get a sense of what they expect for the rest of the year. My kindred usually travels home. We're famous for it. If you're about to ask me whether or not I'm traveling home, I would say that Nabila has had she's somehow involved. Nabila, you do not deny your responsibilities. Nabila is involved.
Are you a media man or not?
Nabila Usman, I'm putting it to you.
Were you a media man before you met me or not?
I was on holiday before I met you, my dear friend.
I have no idea. Look.
Well, this is what Adetutu has to say as regards travel plans for the end of 2023. And perhaps they coincide with yours, but let's hear Adetutu first.
Hello, I'm Adetutu from Ogun State. On whether I'll be traveling during this festive period or not, I would not. I wouldn't. I will not. And that's just because of the risk of traveling during this festive period. It's a known fact that during this period, there is always a higher record of road accidents, and that is mainly because of the drivers. These public transit drivers, they are always over ambitious. A journey that they can go twice in a day, they will rather try everything in their capacity to go 3 or 4 times in a day, regardless of the risk attached, regardless of what is at stake. So I wouldn't want any overambitious driver to toy with my life. So I will not be traveling.
Adetutu is pouring, I think, some cold water on whatever coals were burning as regards traveling for the end of the year. We'll focus this morning on whether or not you'll be going home, as we call it here in Nigeria, as the year comes to an end. What concerns you have as regards the journey home? I have taken the liberty, Nabila, of looking at some of the costs of traveling to my part of town. Let's just
you keep saying your brothers, your sisters, your part of town. Where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria. Let's just say that
I am for everybody and I'm for nobody.
Well, I'm from the eastern part of Nigeria, from Abia State. Let's just say it's a bit expensive to go home at this time of the year, and I agree with Adetutu to an extent. It's not nothing else apart from the expense. And I will honestly admit, my job as a media person keeps me in Lagos at this time of the year, because by now I should be wrapping up and preparing to go and celebrate all sorts of festivals that involve fun and speaking every language except the English language, at least for 2-3 weeks. But I'm thinking of the cost. I'm thinking how expensive it will be to go home. And going home is not just going back home and sitting around. There are things that come with you. I was teasing Nabila to ask, where is the bread? Fortunately, she didn't give bread. She gave sausages, which I appreciate, by the way. But going home, like I said, involves taking gifts with you. If it's rice you're taking back home with you, it's some 60,000 naira you'll be spending, at least according according to those we spoke to on Naira and Kobo. If you're taking beans with you, you're spending over 100,000 Naira, and that's excluding transportation of the said bag of beans back home. So these are some of the things that we face as we think about going home this year. Nabila, what does going home look like for you?
There's no such thing as going home for a media person for holidays. We don't do, whether it is any of the Eids that we're celebrating, or Christmas or Easter or New Year, we're going to do it here. Right. And this year, both Christmas and New Year fall on a Monday. So we'll be very much live and active here on Radio Now.
Very inconvenient if you ask me, but don't ask me.
It comes with the territory. My father was a media man, so I've always known this. It's nothing new. His younger brother, my uncle, also a media man, worked with FRCN in Kaduna. So, you know, there's nothing surprising about it. But look, our question for you, during the conversation, really, this community watch, we're asking you what your travel plans are. Are you going to travel, right? Are you not going to travel? What's the logic? What are you thinking about? What are your considerations as you prepare or not prepare, whatever the case may be? 0913 5000 953. Again, that's 0913 500953 and 0901 1111953. That's 0901 1111953. And of course, WhatsApp.
WhatsApp is
what's up?
It's 0809 682 2595. That's 0809 682 2595. If you're fortunate enough to not be in the media industry, would really like to hear your plans for the holidays. If you're traveling, are you traveling to see family? Are you traveling because you might as well go home and do some of those things that will lead to you disappearing on a Saturday for a few hours? Nabila's eyebrows are furrowed. I will explain to you. There's an urban legend that if you're talking to a young person of marriageable age and they disappear for weekends at a time, it is because you're not the only one who they are speaking to. So I think the holidays are probably a good cover for you to go back home, cross your T's and dot your I's as far as the marital union is concerned, and then come back to the city and continue to carry on with life until you are able to disappear for a weekend. But we really want to hear from you this morning. What are your plans for the holidays? December is here. We're in the 5th day, so there are 20 days to probably the biggest holiday of the month of December in most parts of Nigeria. Christmas is just around the corner. As Nabila has told you, it falls on a Monday, so we're going to be here while you are probably consuming your 3rd or 4th plate of jollof rice or fried rice or rice and stew. We would encourage you to bring the chicken, but we know that you will not be leaving your house that day, so we are with you in spirit. But we want to know if you're traveling this holidays. What are the roads looking like for you? What is the cost of transportation looking like for you? And if you're not traveling, what is your plan for the holidays?
Actually, I think about what Aditutu said about the drivers normally doing 2 trips and then pushing it to 3, 4 if somebody has lost their marbles, as we say. And I can't help but think about the economic situation, because what else would push a person to make a stressful trip more times than they need to? It's all about the funds.
Right.
Once upon a time, and for me, I'll talk about perspective from like Kaduna to Abuja. I still love traveling by road, and I still do. Once upon a time, the trip from Kaduna to Abuja by road was 1,500 naira.
No way.
Yes, it was.
No way.
1.5. It was always a thing. And one of the things I enjoyed the most about that trip, either from Kaduna to Abuja or Kaduna to Jos in Plateau State, right, is, your usual Golf. That's the car. Up north is the one car that is just everywhere, somehow making an interstate trip. It was one of the vehicles where they would not try to squeeze 4 people into the back. So you were comfortable, 3 in the back, 1 in front. If you're doing to other parts of the north, that's a different conversation altogether.
Nasarawa has left a group chat.
But as of right now, that trip from Kaduna to Abuja is 4,000 naira.
I'll be honest and tell you that that's still very affordable.
It's a very short trip.
Point. point. But I'm trying to think of how much it. And when you said 1,500, I felt it was such a long time ago. But I remember that as at 2005, it would cost me about that same amount to go from Ilishan-Remo in Ogun State to Berger in Lagos State, which is their neighboring states. So if you're familiar with the Southwest, they are their neighboring states. It wasn't that much back then, but it has climbed perhaps to about the same amount as you have mentioned, or maybe 5,000 naira now. The cost is prohibitive for a lot of people, if we're being very honest, especially if you're earning the minimum wage or if you're earning lower than that. So these are some of the issues that come with wanting to travel at any point during the year, especially at this time of the year. But once again, we want to hear what you are planning as December is here with us. Our numbers 0913 5000 953. That's 0913 5000 953 or 0901 111 1953. If you want to, you can also send us a WhatsApp message on 0809 682 2595. That WhatsApp message could include a voice note as well. 0809 682 2595. One of the people that we spoke with is Azibanatayam, who shares with us what her plans are for the holidays at this time of the year.
So it's the festivities, right? And I'm currently in Lagos, of course, and my family is in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. I had to travel in September to see them, and I had to spend my leave with them. But then it's festivities, and I'm considering traveling again. The last time I traveled, it was a real sport. It was a lot of work to go by road, and then I made up my mind I was going to fly back because the stress was something else. It was terrible. The roads are bad. The cost of transportation by road is something else. And I made up my mind I was going to fly back, and I did fly back. But then it's festivities, and I'm considering going home. I've never spent time away from home for Christmas. I think the first time I did, it was 25th, and then I traveled back home on the 26th. But right now, I'm not sure I have the funds to travel. The roads are terrible. If I want to go by road, I wouldn't want to go through all that stress. If I want to fly, I was checking the other day, and a round trip is about 174k. That was last week. I know if I check right now, it's going to be something else, and I do not think I can make I don't think I can make that trip. I'm not sure. I'm still hoping, or I'm yet to decide. I mean, January is the longest month in the year, so if I want to make that trip, I would have to be ready to stay hungry in January. So yeah, I'm still deliberating on whether or not to make the trip.
I'm interested in the January part. That has like 7 weeks in a month.
Look, it has to be said that something is different about January every single year. You count the coins, you count the days, you count the hours.
But if you don't travel this year, you don't have to count the coins.
Look, it is December. If you are in Lagos,
it will be dirty.
It will be dirty. There is no avoiding it. I know that people have been sliding into Aya Stars DM. World has had quite a number of requests about what shows are happening, where is it happening, why is it happening, and so on and so forth. It's not just the shows that you have to attend. It's the to speak the local parlance, the buff up that you need to buff up to attend these places. So there's still going to be spending. Events will come up here and there. The spending is going to happen. It's a question of determining how you are spending. Are you spending it with family outside of Lagos? Are you spending it on yourself inside of Lagos? And how much will you spend to be able to, I guess, shift the weight of sadness that comes with not being at home with family at this time of the year? Because it's almost a tradition, regardless of religion, to end the year with your family some way or the other. So I think I completely understand where Azibanatayam is coming from with this complaint.
It's really a complaint. I was thinking about the flights, the tickets, right? I don't know how far ahead she looked, but I remember when once upon a time a ticket was somewhere around 25,000 naira. It really wasn't too expensive. You could even get 19,000 naira at some point on certain airlines.
Right. I remember flying or booking a flight because it was eventually cancelled, the weather, from Benin to Abuja. I had something I needed to do. It cost me around 17,500. This was 2018. So it was very affordable then. I could think about a round trip and be able to afford it on a month's salary. That is not a proposition that I can dabble in right now, just off of a whim. Oh, I need to be in Abuja. Just book a round ticket. I'm not trying to pretend as though doing media work is access to millions. No, please.
If you could manage to find a flight that's around that price now,
I'll take it.
All right, wait. So you'd be taking this flight from like Lagos to Abia?
Yes.
If you manage to end up in Kano, or yours your own, because you're the one who saw a ticket at that price, and although now even the regular price, some airlines are still taking you where you were not planning to go. So can't be too sure.
It's still a risk. I'm trying to see if I can book a flight from Lagos to you know what? This is Abuja instead. I'm going to try and book a flight from Lagos to Abia State just for the fun of it. There's no airport in Abia State, unfortunately, so it looks like Anambra is the closest that I can get.
I was going to ask you if there's an airport, and I was going to ask you, but you are from the state and you're here telling me about flying into Abia.
I was thinking about the airstrip at Olu, but I realized it hasn't been used since the Nigerian Civil War. So just to get a sense of what it actually will cost if, as an Igbo person, I decide to travel home this December. So I'm just randomly booking a flight from Lagos to Anambra State, and I'll give you details of that momentarily. But we still have reactions, and we're going to get to them in just a moment. However, what's important to us this morning is to hear what your plans are for December. Are you traveling? If you're traveling, are you going by road? Are you considering going by air? Have you also calculated what it will cost you to transport all of the goods that you need to transport to home, wherever home is, as far as the end of the year is concerned? Our numbers this morning: 0913 5000 953, 0913 5000 953. You can also call on 0901 111 1953. That's 0901 111 1953. If you want to send us a voice note or your thoughts on WhatsApp, 0809 682 2595. That's 0809 682 2595. Nabila, my figures are in. So if I wanted to leave after the Christmas celebrations, say on Thursday the 28th, it would cost me 150,500 naira to go from Lagos to Anambra State. Now, bear in mind, I'm heading to Abia State, so I still have a road trip to perform. But if I was to return on at this airline I'm looking at doesn't have flights for the 1st of January, but there is a flight on the 2nd of January. It'll cost me 150,500, and if I decided to delay, let me do the new year and then calm down, wait till the 4th, I'm spending 175,500 naira. So that is a little above 300,000 naira for a round trip. And I'm talking just flights, Lagos to Anambra. I haven't talked about road from Anambra to Abia and from Abia back to Anambra and the airports. Somebody say wahala.
Wahala.
Big one.
Wahala. Wahala.
Pro Max. It's a lot to fathom. It's a lot to fathom. And we haven't even considered the fact that the weather might not be in favor of travel.
I mean, technically, is this not the weather for travel? Because if it were like proper rainy season.
No, the Hamatans come with their own hazards. Visibility is usually low at this time of the year, especially in parts of Nigeria where there's dust. So flying to northern Nigeria is going to be interesting for anybody who already has flights booked. I wish you all the best. If there are horror stories involved, especially stories around the cancellation of of flights and so on, you might want to save our numbers so that you can tell us what's going on, how many hours you've spent at the airport, how many times your flight has been moved. We have to accept that this is the reality of traveling right now in Nigeria during the holidays.
Look, we've still got reactions for you, right? And this morning we want to hear from Kasham. Kasham sent us a voice note about her plans.
Hi, my name's Kasham. I currently live in Abuja, but my parents are in Kaduna. But sadly, with Christmas coming, I do not think I'll be able to see them this year because of the rising cost of transportation. The trains used to be cheap before, but right now the fares are so high that I really do not think I'll be able to afford it. Hopefully, I get to see them some other time in the coming year, but it just does not look like it to be possible right now.
This is sad. This is sad, especially for young people who are forced because of work to move away from family. I'm a bit fortunate and to be close to family in Lagos, but for almost every other young person my age, you're not close to your family. You're at least 2 states away from your family.
I want to count how many states away.
Nabila, you're almost a country away from your family, and it is painful. It's especially the end of the year brings a certain weight. I mean, you've run through 12 months, you've faced everything that being an adult has to throw at you, and you probably just want a few weeks with people who have known you since you were able to walk barefoot without consequences, and laugh and reminisce and share a meal, share a drink, just generally just be embraced. I think be a child again for 2 weeks. But you cannot afford to do that in Nigeria today because your pocket is telling you one thing, your heart is telling you another.
There's a word for it. There's a disease.
What is the disease?
It's called pocketitis.
It affects you when the naira does not want to be in a relationship with the dollar anymore, fuel subsidy has decided on a divorce from petrol. These are the realities.
Pocketitis can catch you at any point. I had a friend who was getting married. And this was just almost 2 years ago.
Right.
And he said he was always getting upset, that he got angry very frequently that period. It took him a moment to realize that he was angry every time he had to remove money to pay for something or the other ahead of the wedding. So yeah.
Look, if you have a friend who is in this situation, don't send them money while they are planning to get married. This is expert advice. And I will tell you this because I've got friends who have married and they always say to me, some of the best gifts I've received are the monies that I got after the wedding ceremony was done. I know a friend who got married in 2019. He had spent everything. He paid upfront for everything, the cake, the venue, and so on and so forth. So his pockets were empty. He had managed to renew his house rent. His pockets were empty. And then the morning after the wedding had been concluded, his friends started to send him various amounts of money. He said it was probably the best feeling. And they all said to him, "We no say money no dey your pockets." It didn't matter. He didn't feel bad about it. He just knew that his friends were aware that this was the right time to send him money. So I'm saying to you, if you have a friend who pocketitis is catching and they are getting married, don't send them money while they are getting married. Send it to them afterwards. It's a way to help.
Either that or you could do... I had a friend who got married and someone decided to gift them a bag of rice.
Oh dear, that's
because
a good
it was
one.
Just 2 of them. It lasted them longer than a year.
Right. It's just, I think at this moment, I might be able to stretch it for longer than that time because how will I cook the bag of rice when it's expensive to buy gas, when it's tomatoes? Fortunately, I'm not in need of tomatoes at the moment. Let's just say that as somebody who has legs in the agricultural community, I may have been able to forecast what is happening in the market, and I may have invested in some tomatoes early enough. I have also invested in chicken because
now I know whose house I'm going to for Christmas.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Just be ready to eat until you have problems moving. So it will happen. This invitation is only extended to Nabila. Everybody else who is hearing it, stay in your house. Be content.
And here we are talking about travel. You're telling people to stay in their houses.
Nabila, is it my fault if people cannot leave Lagos to go elsewhere? I think Lagosians, the reason why you're not calling this morning is because you have plans. Look, we're in this Lagos together. Whatever plans you have to enjoy in Lagos, you will not enjoy by yourself. I will visit you in your location. I will identify you. D. Joseph, I didn't hear your plans to travel. I am judging you. Who else haven't I heard from this morning? Mr. Rashid Bisiriyu, I am equally judging you. I will be in Munshi. Ambassador Musibao, I will be visiting you in Munshi this December because I refuse to accept that you're going to be in this Lagos and we will not what's the word? I think jollificates together is the word I'm looking for.
All of this sounds like a threat, by the way.
Speaking of threats, David Chiedu has come to threaten us with his presence. I'm a little curious because David Chiedu is also from the eastern part of Nigeria.
South. South.
What? South?
He's a Delta man.
Stop it.
Yes.
His last...
He's a rapper man.
Oh my goodness.
You tie it up and with a bowler hat kind of...
You're about to get me messed up.
I think that's more Urobo people that do that, isn't it?
Chiedu.
Yes.
He is Chiedu.
Uh-huh.
He's Eastern.
There are Igbos in the South. We know this.
Deep breath, Stephen.
No, defend yourself.
Deep breath, Stephen.
People, especially from, I at least know just one place that typically repeats itself, Abo in Delta.
So
I know he's not from Abo, so he'll tell us, he'll give us the details.
Is it Abo you are saying or Agbo?
No, and that's the thing. So if you meet people who are from this place, they tell you it's Abo. If you meet Igbos who are not from this place, they insist that it is Agbo.
David Chiedu, my first question to you this morning is, how close is where you are from to the Niger Bridge?
Ladies and gentlemen, I stood at the door and watched these
This how you escape the question.
Individuals.
Leave him, politician.
I stood at the door watching these two individuals debate about where I'm from.
No, but I was not debating, I was educating.
David Chiedu.
I cannot be debating with somebody who clearly has it wrong.
Mr. Chiedu, Nabila, stay away.
I'm closer to the mall.
In 15 seconds, how close is your village to the Niger Bridge?
Kuku not asked him the name of the village yet.
No, don't worry.
For the record, Nabila is correct. I'm from the South.
Ding, 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 ding.
And to answer
Sorry,
your question,
can you say it again?
And to answer your question, Stephen, it's not very far. Once you drop off the Niger Bridge, you get into what we call Anibo. Just before the Niger Bridge, you're leaving Delta State. Right?
David, can I trek from your village to the Niger Bridge?
Not really, no.
No,
unless you have Legady's Benz.
Look,
then you can go ahead.
If you wanted to, it just means you might want to have money ready because you're going to be spending time in the hospital or something.
It's not that far. And as somebody who did long distance running, I would tell you that I can reach your village. What's the name of your village, by the way?
My village is Onichubu.
Okay.
Look for me there. I'm one of the...
Meanwhile, you've been here in Lagos. Look for him there.
What I mean is, when you go there and you ask, for Ikoko quarters, yes, there's just only one of that in Onichubu.
You better be careful. One woman is listening and planning to go there to ask for your hand in marriage.
Leave David to continue. As my soldier friends say, you did buy job, you never know.
All right.
Well, welcome.
Interesting.
Welcome into it, David. What do we have to look forward to today, as far as the midday show is concerned?
Yes, we're going to pick up the baton from Now Breakfast, essentially, and have some more conversations about the, unfortunate killing in Kaduna State, and then, of course, we pivot into the judiciary, where the Attorney General has a thing or two to say about the safety of his, the people under his purview, with regards to what they should ride in, or in other words, in this case, what they should fly in. So we're going to talk more about that later on.
Well, look forward to that right here with David Chiedu. But for now, it is from Nabila and myself. It's good morning to you, Lagos. We'll be back with another edition of Now Breakfast tomorrow, bright and early at 5:30 a.m. But I'm sticking around to bring you the news at 10 a.m. on your Beyond the News station, Radio Now 95.3 FM. Good morning.
All the radio you need now. 95.3 FM.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing